to the Birth Bootcamp podcast. I'm Holly Hopley, the CEO.
I'm Cheryl Ameling, the certification coordinator.
And today we are really excited to talk to Kristy Huber. She is a postpartum doula and a postpartum doula trainer here with Birth Bootcamp. She helped us create the postpartum doula training program. But she is on as part of kind of our summer of sharing birth stories. And so we're really excited to have her with us here today. She's been on the podcast before, and we all love Kristy. So
we adore Kristy.
Will you just take a quick minute and tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, your family, anything fun like that?
Awesome. I am in West Jordan, Utah, and I have a wonderful husband that I affectionately call Mr. Wiggles. And he lets me call him that publicly because we won a trip to Hawaii on the radio because I refer to him as Mr. Wiggles.
Oh my gosh, how funny.
We have 5 children and 17 grandchildren, and family is probably the most important thing to me. And if you don't find me watching like AGT or Call the Midwife, I'm on the sidelines of football games and soccer games, cheering on grandkids now. And I'm probably the loudest cheerer.
That does not surprise me.
I would bet money.
Mm-hmm. And so we have a great family. And yes, I've been a doula almost 3 decades, you guys.
Wow.
Started as a birth doula and really navigated myself through unknown territory and kind of set some precedents, especially here in Utah and kind of in the Western United States, and began postpartum work shortly after I became a birth doula. And I'm still doing the work and loving the work. I have a Utah Jazz coach's wife, and that'll be fun in August, and 2 doctors that received my name from their doctors. So
that's awesome.
In August. So I always have some exciting things going on with the doula world. I love Birth Bootcamp and loved developing the program with Holly for the postpartum doula training. And ladies and gentlemen, we need postpartum doulas throughout this nation. So I would really encourage you to add that to your talents and just to your careers. I think scheduled work is awesome work, and it is blessed work to do, to be in someone's home and to help them after birth.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I love that.
Agreed.
Well, and listening to you talk about postpartum work and like that sacred space, it's just like it brings tears to your eyes. Like you like the way that you talk about it is so beautiful, and you can just like see the passion like coming out of your pores.
I am very much an advocate of women getting the care they so need after the most profound, emotionally laden time of their life. And physically laden. I mean, just spiritually laden. It's just a time where a woman needs to be enveloped in love and care and nurturing. And as a grandmother, I can do that really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that.
Thank you.
Okay, so mother of 5, grandmother of 17. Is that what you said?
Yes. Can you believe
it?
Yeah,
no, that's amazing. Okay, so let's start back at the very beginning. So how old is your oldest child?
Our oldest son is Joshua, and he's 42. And that was a really interesting experience. So I was a senior in high school. I was a student body officer. I was on the drill team. I was the newspaper editor, and I was pregnant. I was a teen mom. And I had some really hard battles because I was a teen mom and I was kind of high profile in the high school. And probably the hardest thing was my drill team advisor made me tell the whole drill team. And then of course I wasn't able to march after that. She wasn't going to let me be on the drill team after that. And my student body officer advisor was the total opposite. She was a gift to me, and she was kind, and she was understanding, and she was supportive. And to this day, Ron and I still have a friendship with her and her husband. Her husband
Oh,
was Ron's football coach in high school. And here she was, my student body advisor, instructor. And so she was able to navigate that with me. And I stayed in my student body position and held my head high and learned that I had strength beyond my own strength. And so I grew a ton. So this was February of my senior year. So my mom was very good to me, and my parents both were, and Ron's parents were good. We got married quickly in February of my senior year. Ron had gone off for a year at playing football on a college scholarship. And so that just kind of sets that up. So my mom and I found out there was a teen mom program at the University of Utah run by certified nurse midwives. So I joined that and was introduced to the midwife model of care, which for a teen was exceptional. I was able to go there, be seen. It was like a 2-hour visit, get on WIC, which was helpful to get the food and the training through that and the classes through that. And we took classes there at the University of Utah, and I knew I wanted to go unmedicated, which was awesome. So
was there something that they like said or did that made you want to do that?
that's a great question. I think I just wanted to do it for self-empowerment and to conquer something big. And I had taken the classes and kind of heard about the options. We didn't have routine ultrasounds 42 years ago. We didn't really talk about the differences between a hospital birth and unmedicated birth, but I just felt like it was best for me. And I think what they did for me as midwives, because it was a group of midwives, is that they kept telling me and reiterating to me that your body knows what to do. Your body was built to birth, and it is strong and is capable of that. And so, I just trusted in that.
I love that.
So the day I went into labor, we lived with my mom at the home that I grew up in. It was just my mom and Ron and I, and it was a big home. And Ron was at work. That wasn't a day and age of cell phones. So he was at work, and he delivered for a plumber supply company. And my mom was at a meeting, and I was sitting on her bed, and I kept contracting. And I was only 32 weeks gestation. And so I took a drink of water. I called the midwives. They said, drink more water, just rest. The contractions continued. I got a hold of my mom at the meeting. She ran home, and bless her heart, she was a little bit hysterical because I was early and she could tell I was laboring. In fact, while she was helping me pack my bag, she fell in the hallway, and I felt so bad for her because I could imagine, I was her only daughter. She had 5 older sons, and this was her first experience with me as her daughter. So we were able to call the plumbing supply company and tell them to get a hold of Ron. He was out on a delivery, and we headed up with the neighbors drove because my mom was hysterical, drove us up there, and I was dilated to 5 centimeters.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And they weren't going to stop me. And my mom had brought clothes for Ron and to change into when he got there. And he arrived and was able to shower in the doctor's lounge and get his clothes on, a fresh change of clothes. And he came in, and before he came in, I had a medical student in there. University of Utah is a medical school and a training facility. And So I had a medical student in there sitting by my side while I was sucking on a sucker because I heard it would keep your mouth moist, and it was. And I said, just a minute. And I took the sucker out and I looked, and it was hanging in his long bangs. And I looked at him and I kind of got offbeat with my breathing. He goes, keep breathing, keep breathing. I was so embarrassed. So he went and rinsed it off, brought it back and put it in this hand.
Oh, that's funny.
That was a first for him. So they actually had me deliver in the room where they could toss the baby off into they call it the McDonald's window into NICU if they needed to. And Ron arrived, and I probably got there at 3:30, and this was like 7:20. I was complete at night. And so just like 4 hours later, and it was Ron's mom's 40th birthday, and this was her first grandson. And we were supposed to be at their house at 7:30 to have cake and ice cream. We called him and said, bring the cake and ice cream. We're giving you your grandbaby. We didn't know what it was, if we were having a boy or girl. And pretty soon I delivered him unmedicated. And the sad part was, it was Labor Day, September 3rd, 1981. And the midwife was out of town. That was on.
Dang.
And so I just got the doctor that was on call. He kept asking me for medication, and I said, nope, I'm great. And 2 pushes, Josh was here. It was 5 pounds, 12 ounces. They passed him through the McDonald's window into the NICU, and I watched, and they said, thumbs up, he's great. And they brought him back all wrapped up.
Yeah.
So did he spend any time in the NICU?
He did not.
Wow.
So that was awesome.
Great.
He was pretty much, they determined about 32 weeks gestation, which isn't uncommon for a teen mom to have a preterm labor. And but they never unwrapped him, never did skin to skin or anything. He had a really hard time latching because he didn't have really good sucking reflexes. And so I pumped and got breast from my chin to my belly button by pumping with hospital grade pumps. You understand that. We did take him home, and his bilirubin went up into the 20s. It was pretty scary. And so we brought him back, and he stayed in the hospital because the equipment then wasn't really good. Even though we put him in the sunlight, in direct sunlight, we just couldn't get him to latch. And so he had a couple strikes that way against him, but breastfeeding was successful. After that, I learned well and fed him for a good year, breastfed him for a good year. I just let all my children wean when they were ready to wean. But it was a beautiful birth experience. My in-laws were there, and we always know how old Ron's mom is. She's 40 years older than Josh, and she's 82 now, and Josh is 42, and they share a birthday.
That's fun.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that. So was your husband involved like in the like the preparation, the classes that you took or anything like that? Like how did he support you during that experience?
Ron was there at the classes, and we kind of giggled through the relaxation techniques because of our immaturity. We probably would still do it, dang it.
Yeah.
It happens. I don't know, that was kind of embarrassing, but he was there. Did he do any hands-on? Probably held my hand and stroked my hair, and then just told me I was the most beautiful woman in the world. After, and just cried. He just wept. So the emotional support was definitely there. I mean, we were 17 and 18.
Right.
So we were 18 and 19 when Josh was born. And so, yeah, so we were getting up there.
Right. Exactly. Okay. So then how long after was your next baby?
So 22 months later, I delivered Landon. And Landon, Holly and I have this in common. We both have delivered a baby at Madison Memorial Hospital, right? Holly?
Yep.
Yeah. in Rexburg, Idaho. It's this really tiny country hospital. It's growing now, but this was 40 years ago. And Landon was they didn't have any midwives that practiced in Rexburg. And so Landon was well, I sat out. Sorry, my husband's in the room. Hi, handsome. He's like, "Are you doing a podcast?" Yes, go on. Anyway, I wanted a midwife, but I couldn't find one. And so we found Dr. Lester Peterson. He was a really good OB. I told him I had gone unmedicated, and he said, "You're welcome to go unmedicated this time too. I'll support that." And so I went into labor in the middle of the night. We got friends to tend little Josh, and off we went into Madison Memorial Hospital. And it was first day of summer school. Ron was supposed to go to summer school then, but he did not make it to class. He made it to his second child's birth. And it was a great experience again. Labored quickly. We got there probably about 6 a.m. And before 9, I delivered Landon and unmedicated. And the fun thing about Landon is when he was born, he was just wide-eyed and bushy-tail. And it was as if the world said, "Look out, world, here comes Landon." And
how far along were you?
I made it to about, let's see, he was due July 4th, and he came on June 14th.
Okay.
Flag Day, so a little bit early again. So I just hatched him early. But he was still patriotic. And so delivered him unmedicated. And that was the only birth I saw a big chunk of my mucus plug, and that was cool. As I came out, I was like, wow. And so that was awesome. But yeah, he didn't cry at all. He was just happy to be there. And I did, during the pushing phase, ladies, I had complete relaxation in between. Total relaxation in between. And that was awesome. That was way awesome.
Yeah.
So, but sweet little baby, and yep, he did great. We were busy now. We were going to college. We had 2 little boys, and they were hellfire and brimstone sometimes.
Yep.
Right. Okay, so then baby number 3.
Now we're in Salt Lake. After Rick's College. Rick's College was only a 2-year college at the time. Now it's BYU Idaho. It's 4-year. But at the time, it was only a 2-year college, and we moved back for Ron to continue his education. And 22 months later, I was delivered.
I see a pattern.
Heidi. Do you see a pattern? Now, Heidi, I was able to go to the U of U midwives, and they had a freestanding birth center.
Oh, wow.
And so that was awesome. And
so what year is this now? Where are we?
1985. See how things changed in just a few years. In 1985, we had a birthing center now, and midwives running that birthing center.
It's amazing.
And so Ron was a Salt Lake County deputy sheriff working a graveyard shift at the time. Heidi was born. Heidi was due in October, like October 5th, and this was September 17th. I had to make 37 weeks, which I barely did, to deliver at the birth center. And so that protocol was still in place. And I started laboring at night. Now, my mom was going through chemo and radiation for breast cancer at the time. And she slept with me that night. And every time I would contract, I tried to be so quiet, and she would rub my back because I was worried about her. And she'd say, "It's okay, darling. It's going to pass soon, darling." And she would just rub my back. She doulaed me in a lot of ways. Sorry, I didn't think I'd get emotional. Phew. And I think I learned a lot of my nurturing skills from my mom. But finally, about 5:30 a.m., I could not stay in bed. The contractions get too hard and you get too uncomfortable. And you get up and you walk around, and I did that. And mom stayed in bed. And I called dispatch and said, I'm Deputy Huber's wife. I'm in labor. And interesting enough, Ron was sitting in front of my mom's home in his police car doing reports. And he just zoomed right home, and off we went to the birth center, and had this wonderful nurse there and wonderful midwife. And I got in the tub. And Margie Batson was my midwife. She just finished practicing and not too long ago. And I think it's Margie Batson. Anyway, Ron sat on the toilet and just turned on the hot and the cold, and the hot and the cold. Talk to me, and it was way fun. And finally I said, I need to push. And Margie came and checked me, and she goes, no, there's no cervix. She says, I've never done a water birth. Let's get you to the bed. So I stood up and I reached to grab something, and I grabbed the towel rack and I pulled it out of the wall. And I went, oops, put that on my bill. And I got to the bed and I pushed once and delivered this beautiful dark-haired little girl that I did have skin to skin, and that I could hold and I could nurture and love on, and all of that. And it was a beautiful birth. It was a beautiful birth. So
I love that.
The hardest part of that birth was that night when another mom came and delivered in the other room. And she was a screamer, and I just wanted to sleep. And I relived everything through her screams.
Oh, I can see how that would be true.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then 3 years later, here comes Julie. And it was an emotional time for our family. My brother had just buried his wife, named Julie. And she was killed on a motorcycle in a motorcycle accident. And while I was carrying Julie, I asked my brother Craig if I could name her Julie, and he just wept and said I would be honored.
Oh,
and so I did have my first ultrasound with Julie, and Craig was actually there, and we saw that it was a girl. And so she was our Julie Bugs from then on. And this one, I prepared our kids to attend the birth and the labor. And I'm trying to think of their ages. So, oh gosh, 3, 5, and 7 probably was their ages. I had read them books about, like, a child is born. I showed them pictures. We talked about blood being good blood that they would see from mom. It wasn't bad blood that day. And we were very open with our kids about what they would see. And Julie was I was also seen by the same midwife group of the University of Utah, and planning to deliver in the freestanding birthing center again. Went into labor, and everyone was so excited. The boys were so excited, jumped right out of bed, made their beds, even got up. They were so excited. We all headed to the hospital with my mom as support. And what I noticed is it was a little bit harder with the kids in the room to really relax.
Yeah.
And so mom took the kids for a long, long walk, and I was able to unwind and relax. And then they got back. They had brought us McDonald's breakfast. And before that, I had asked, who's the midwife on call? And they said, Pete. And I said, Pete, as in Mel? And they said, yes. And sure enough, it was a Mel midwife. And the kids, when they got back with their McDonald's, ate, and then we played Uno until I needed to push.
I love
my
that.
goodness.
And so I pushed out little Julie, and we had our 2 and 2, and life seemed glorious. We were so happy to have the 2 boys and the 2 girls. And Julie, the minute they put her on my chest, she just peed.
Hello.
And you know what?
Nice to meet you, Mom.
Personality has not changed.
That is so funny.
I love that.
The warmth of urine.
Right.
Off my body.
Like, is this oxytocin flooding through my
Yes.
body? No, it's not.
It's urine.
It's urine. Nice to meet you too.
That's so true.
I love it.
True.
I love that. Okay. And then one more, the bonus.
One more. Yep. So we had a little tiebreaker, and that was Cameron. Our insurance didn't cover the free standing birth center. And, I totally understand why women now choose their birthing location based on what is covered, because it can be expensive. And we had, 4 little mouths to feed, and they were growing. But we again planned to have all of our kids at the birth, and I finally got brave enough to film this birth. And
yay.
we just had our 12-year-old son film.
I love it.
Awesome.
So again, we had the open conversations with our kids, and we really normalized birth. And I saw a midwife at a hospital, St. Mark's Hospital here in Salt Lake, and went into labor, preterm labor a few times. Actually went to the hospital once because I had gone every 4 to 6 hours. I kept thinking, I was going, but I didn't one time. And so Ron and I went out to a 24-hour Waffle House. Went home discouraged after that. That was on the 24th of July. And then I went into true labor on the 25th. And that's when I gave birth to him. And my parents were both present, and all of our kids. And Cameron was tiny. He was 5 pounds, 3 ounces. Again, a little bit early, probably about 3 weeks early. And each of our kids had jaundice because of that, going early. And he required just a little bit, they probably CPAP'd him. And then I got him after and loved on him, but he was teeny. We brought him home at 4 pounds, 12 ounces. That's a teeny
wow.
Baby. That's a small baby.
Is so small.
Yeah. So, and by that time they could do the Billy lights at our home.
Oh, good.
That's so good when they can do that.
Yes. So, one child put a cold washcloth on my head. One child videoed. Ron held my hand and told me how wonderful I was, and sobbed again like a baby. And
I love it.
All was well. But we had great birth. I had great birth experiences. I'm not the one at the baby showers that's telling the bad experiences. I'm telling the truth.
Right.
And I will never get the runner's high, because I will never run that far. But that's another reason I did it, because the oxytocin and just the endorphins that surge.
Yeah.
After.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So that's the
that.
Happy Huber clan in a nutshell's births. They were all great.
What were the the weights, like biggest baby, the smallest baby?
Oh, good question. Heidi was our largest. She was 6 pounds, 10 ounces. And then Cameron was our smallest, 5'3".
Okay. So,
yeah.
You grow them small, hatch them early.
And have them early. Yeah. We just prepared especially after Josh, that we were just them early. In fact, one of the children, I think it was Julie, they made me wear a Toko's monitor at home, and and they would send in the number of contractions that I was having, and I would talk to a nurse, and I did a ton of bed rest, and we know that bed rest really doesn't help now. I think it can a little bit get our women to slow down, but that was interesting to do that, just have the external fetal monitor on and have that sent over via telephone.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah. I think it was something they were trying, and I don't know. It must not go too well.
Was your mom early? Did she deliver you and your siblings early?
2 sets of twins, her first birth. And so definitely. And then I don't know about Dave and I. So her singletons, but
she had 2 sets of twins
before she was 20.
Wow.
Yeah. She did lose one from her first birth.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. He only lived 24 hours. and she never held him. So,
Oh,
but that
Wow.
was 70 plus years ago.
Right.
right.
So
Yeah.
when they didn't even know she was delivering a second baby until the birth.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
So it's kind of,
Wow.
yeah. So, yeah, my mom was supportive. Ron was huge and just showing me love and nurturing me. And yeah,
Yeah, it sounds like you had
Mhm.
like such a great support system from the very beginning. I mean,
yeah,
Mhm.
thinking about being a teen mom and all the emotions that go with that, and having somebody that, not only your parents, which I know that that was huge, but having somebody else outside of your family that was like, no, 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 we're going to do this, it'll be okay, and help you
right,
along, and setting yourself up for like success for all of your births, like that very first one kind of set the precedent for like this can be a good experience. And especially in that time, I would think that I would I could be wrong, but I feel like that story is probably rare in
Mhm.
you know
right. Absolutely.
in kind
And
of just
so
your start.
that's why I will, help teen moms and feel comfortable in doing that and really mentor them.
Yeah.
So important. But yes, I mean, our story is a rarity. We'll be married 43 years, and
Mhm.
Mhm.
thankfully I found the best guy I could, and I'm
Yeah.
grateful for that because a lot of teen marriages don't work.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right.
So
That's
Do
awesome.
you know if that does like the university still do anything like that? Like the teen
they, I,
mom?
I believe they have the teen mom program still.
Good.
And
I hope they do.
yeah, I'm pretty sure they do. And now that midwifery group of 2 or 3 is now like 15 to
It's
20.
huge.
It's
Yeah.
huge. And
Yeah.
so,
That's incredible.
yeah, yeah. At the time, it only had one, and she was out of town again when I was delivering, but
Yeah.
it's all right.
That just was not meant to
What?
be.
Nope, that was not.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
but great
I
birth
love it.
experiences. And you know what? I loved labor and delivery, and I would have had a dozen kids had I not had to feed them
Right.
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 to have that
Feed,
experience.
clothe, car
Yes,
Hmm.
insurance. That's where I
yes.
am right now in
Car
my
insurance. Yes, I hear
Yep.
you. Oh, Cheryl, that's hard.
Yep.
yeah, it is. And I have more coming through the pipeline. So I'm like, oh,
Yes, yes.
I gotta.
And I think one thing can be said too is you can have the kind of birth you want, even if it's in not the location you want. You can still have a wonderful experience, an unmedicated birth in the hospital. And that's one thing I think that I've
Hmm.
learned through all that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love talking about that too. Cause I'm like, it's totally doable. It's just knowing what you want, what options are available to you, and, kind of how to speak up for yourself.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yep. So loved it, loved it.
Did you ever have in any of your births, because you kind of told us like something special from each of them, but did you ever have any times where you like that whole like, well, I don't think I can do this, like with transition, like this is really hard. Did you ever feel like you had that at all?
That doesn't stand out in my memory. Isn't that
Hmm.
Mm.
interesting? You know,
Yeah.
so if I did, that has sunk into
Hmm.
oblivion.
Yeah. Not that big of a deal. Yep.
Yes, and again, I always remember that I only had 4 to 6 hour labors.
Right.
Wild.
I didn't count the pre-labor and stuff like that. And I look at my moms who have inductions that go 2 days, 2.5 days, and I think, oh my, I would have chosen epidural long ago,
Hmm.
just because that just is exhausting. I think my clients that have inductions that end up and they go through and even push and end up with a cesarean, they have the hardest recovery of all.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I would
For sure.
agree.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, vaginal births that go well, babies, that are small, you know, were
Hmm.
helpful. So
Yep.
Well, I think that it's interesting, you know, because one thing that they say is that women always remember how they were made to feel during birth, um, and even, you know, 42 years later, you remember all of those emotions and all of that support, and you think about it like fondly because it was a good experience for you. Um, and how like we carry that as women, like as mothers and as women and as human beings, like this really, I mean, you talked about it in the beginning, like this really big thing that you're going to do. And so, you know, setting yourself up in, you know, a place that supports you with people around you that support you is so big and so important, because you're going to carry this for the rest of your life. This is going to be like a core memory, you know, core experience of who you are. So
Yes,
so
yes.
I think it's interesting talking to you, having done this, you know, 40 plus years ago, and how you still remember all of those details about how you felt. It's so
I think it's
interesting.
forever imprinted upon your soul.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to put it. Yeah,
Forever imprinted on your heart and soul.
that is.
Yeah.
It
And
is.
good or bad. And so as doulas, how are we helping that to be a positive, even when it's heartbreaking or tragic?
Yeah.
How can we as women help other women to reframe that and to feel love and nurtured, despite some hardships, maybe through labor and childbirth?
Right. Right. Because it's not easy. Like none of it's easy. And like you said, there's, you know, the day's induction and a woman who did, I mean, I think it's you said like the woman who gets to pushing and still has a cesarean. She had like two births, like two complete births there, you know.
Yes.
And so yeah, like it's just how you're made to feel is so important. And I think a lot it gets lost. It's like, well, I'm healthy and baby's healthy. And that emotional aspect gets lost because we're told it's not important. And it is.
It is important. And it is important to hear people and listen to women and their feelings. So
Right.
so I'm careful also in telling my story, because there's also that woman at the baby shower that's had a traumatic birth, and that's in the eye of the
Right.
beholder.
Right.
And so we need to be sensitive to that also.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
want to be the woman that gives hope to the pregnant woman, but also sensitive to the woman that's sitting there mourning her birth experience.
Right. Because hers is valid too.
You bet. You bet.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
fun, ladies.
I'm getting like all like weepy and teary over here. Like it's just, I think birth is so big.
It is
Just
so
is.
big.
Yeah.
It is so big. And we will remember when we're 80.
Right.
When we sit around a table and talk with other ladies our age, like exactly how we felt. I'll never ever forget the cheeseburger and strawberry milkshake after I delivered Josh. How good that tasted, you know?
Right.
Yep.
And I'll never
Absolutely.
ever forget that first night they kept him in the nursery, and I thought that was just standard. And so I stayed awake all night long, thanking my maker for this beautiful gift. And I remember them coming in the morning, and I couldn't even stay awake during the conversation. I kept falling asleep. They're like, oh, this poor mama, she can't handle her baby right now. But just the gratitude you have that everything's okay, even though he was 32 weeks, you know, a little guy.
Right. Yeah, he was a little guy.
So, yep. Life is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I think that like this was so fun to hear about your experiences. I knew a little bit of them, but like it's fun to hear you tell to all of them. So
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
awesome.
Well, you're such a good storyteller too, Kristy.
I don't know about that. I set up a long story sometimes.
I think it was like, I think each of them was like the perfect length. I think you did a
Yeah, no, you did it. Yeah,
a great
I
job.
love it. I could listen to you talk about anything all day. That was one of the first things that I learned about you. I was like, she's such a great storyteller. Tell me another story, Kristy.
Yep.
Oh, funny.
Awesome. Can you where can people find you?
They can find me at khdoula.com is my website. They can find me on Facebook, Kristy Huber Birth and Postpartum Doula. They can find me by calling or looking at Birth Boot Camp, calling Ollie.
Yep. Yeah, we'll get you in touch. Yeah. Awesome.
So yeah, that's sweet. I book out in advance quite a ways because of my experience.
You're
And
always booked.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I chose the best thing I could ever do.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no regrets in that.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
That's so great.
love
Awesome.
doula work,
Okay.
love childbirth education, all that good stuff. So,
All the things. Yep.
all the things, you get it. So,
Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks so much, Kristy. This was a lot of fun.
thank
Thank
you. It
you.
was a ton of fun.
Yep.
Thanks
All
for
right.
having me.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody, and stay tuned for next week for more birth stories.